Hello, and welcome to the second episode of the Project Mbappe podcast with me, Sean Conlon, and Marcelo Grassa. We're coaches and scouts with Premier League clubs, and we've been involved in the journeys of hundreds of players who've signed for academies and many who've made careers in football. On this podcast, we'll be speaking with well-known footballers and elite coaches about the football journeys of their children and what they are doing to help them achieve their potential. We're looking to discover if there's a special formula which can guarantee your child to making it as a professional footballer. Does Project Mbappe really work? Today's guest is Darius Charles. Darius is a professional footballer for Championship side Wycombe Wanderers. He has an 11-year-old boy named Malaki who's signed to Fulham's Academy. Malachi's been at the club for 4 years and signed at the age of 7. Darius, welcome to the Project Mbappe podcast.
Hi guys, how are you?
Oh, good. How are you, man?
Good, thank you.
Excellent.
Good.
How do you think Malachi at Fulham, how has his journey been different to yours?
How has his journey been different from mine? One, I don't think he came up in a different manner. So I spent a lot at Malachi's age. He's 11 now. I didn't have much structured football, so I was literally getting a ball, kicking it up the side of the wall at home, hours and hours and on it, and going to the park, like running with my football, like dodging in and out of like lampposts and drains and whatnot, and then going to the cage and playing cage football, which is, just free flowing, creative, no rules, regulations, or structure. Whereas Malachi is different, right? He's kind of gone straight into structure, and he trains 3 times a week at the age of 11 and has a game on a Sunday. I was training at most twice a week, for an hour and a half. So we were doing a lot less structured work, and the majority of my learning was at home with friends, watching R9 do something and then wanting to do it, which I'm sure most kids do nowadays, as well as YouTube and whatnot. But it was literally that, like, we were left to our own devices, and I spent God knows how many hours like learning my football that way, as opposed to being in an institution where they want to nurture and bring out your individuality. It's just that that's still done within a structure. So I guess finding that balance can be difficult. So that's what I would say the biggest difference between Malachi coming into football is, and what my kind of transition into football was.
Do you think by having your, how you started your journey, in comparing to Malachi's, do you have more of a love, or did you have more of a love at the same age as Malachi for the game, or is it different, or is it?
I would say that I loved football growing up way more than Malachi did. Yeah. And I don't know if that's because nowadays kids exposed to more things.
Yeah.
Which isn't a bad thing, by the way. It's a very good thing that, because like we know, becoming a professional footballer is an incredibly hard thing to do. And by professional, I mean playing the league, because you can play at various levels and earn a very good, living out of it. So that's the advantage of playing football now, as opposed to like when I was coming through the game. But what I would say is that there's always going to be distractions. There's always going to be something else you could be doing. I just chose to always do football. Like, anyone who knew Darius growing up then knew that Darius would be somewhere with a ball at his feet, like constantly. Whereas now it's like, play dates and like, I never done that. Like, play dates wasn't even a thing. I don't know if this is just a new thing or it was still happening when we were up, but it's like, but you know what I mean? It's like, we're gonna take you to. It's like sometimes I'll be like, "What are you gonna do today, son?" He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go. Mum's taking me to Isaiah's house, and we're gonna do it." That wasn't a thing for me.
Yeah, it was. Should we go park?
Yeah, we'll go park. Like, not even phone call. It was like they knew what time, or they just knew you would chance it. You'd be like, "What's the time?"
Yeah, someone will be there.
Someone will be in the park.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that was the way like we grew up. And I would say that maybe even because of that, or maybe just because that was where my energy was I loved football way more than Malachi done at that age, or at least that's how I view it, because I would never not play football. There would never be a moment where it's like, I don't want to play football. Where sometimes I'll be like, Malachi, do you want to play football? And he might just be like, But it's different because I never had, like active parenting in my house.
Okay.
So maybe that plays a part in it. It's like, I didn't have like I was raised by my nan who worked nights. So when she gets home, like she wants to sleep, she's not going to play football with me. Like
Yeah.
dad wasn't around, so like I ain't got. Do you know what I mean? So it's like the dynamic.
Different, yeah.
So there's so many different variables, but I mean, all that aside, I would say I definitely loved football more than Malachi growing up.
Then do you think that Malachi will become better than you?
Impossible.
Really?
I don't think he'll be better than me. No, that's a lie. I always tease him and say like, "You're not going to be better than me." I would like him to be better than me, of course, because I want
Yeah.
him. You know what I mean? He's my son. Like, I want him to be better than I was. At this moment in time, though, that he doesn't have what I had.
Okay.
Like I was a creative individual. Like I said, like I started up front, and I slowly over time went back. But it was like I could beat a whole team of players and score a goal. With like step over, dropping shoulder, literally. Well, I used to play like gigs. That's who I would say I played like, right? Whereas Malachi is still kind of learning his body. And again, maybe that is because I was playing a lot more cage football and I had to figure out how to beat bigger boys. You know, I used to go with my uncle, like, you know, he raised me in Brixton, and we'd be playing against men. And the first few times I arrived, like they'd be like, "Oh, he's a kid. Like, come on, he's gonna get hurt." And then after the fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh time, when they knew like I was good, they'd be like, they'd want me on their team because they knew I could just drift past people. So again, maybe it's because of the conditions in which I came up in that Malachi hasn't necessarily been afforded. But I do like to think with my tutelage that even if he's not doesn't have as much ability, I think we'd be able to maximize his skill set a lot quicker and for a longer period of time. Because like I said, like I didn't really have that guidance or mentorship. So it would always take adversity for me to like realize what I could do. So it's like get released, go and do something great. Get injured, go and do something great. Get dropped, go and do, as opposed to having that level of consistency that the top players do, where it's like that's who they are. They're diligent in their work. They wake up and they're ready to do it, you know.
I found it really interesting when you were, you know, telling us your journey before, when you went to the youth team manager and you knew you was not going to get the pro, but you were still going, what do I need to do? Where it's just fantastic, like mentality to have and to pass down to Malachi, because you were, you know, it's like you're not giving up, you're not down, down tools. It's like, no, what do I need to do to get there?
And I think a lot of that is because of lack of opportunity. So again, nowadays, like, you know, you have players that are getting moves from Conference South, Ryman, Evo Stick to like league clubs. That wasn't a thing when I was coming through the ranks. Like the club you was at was the club you was at. And if you didn't make it there, it was extremely hard to go and trial elsewhere and to get something because there was less money. You know, everyone wants experience. No one wants to take a chance on a kid, really. Whereas now it's like the younger the better. Do you know what I mean? Like we don't want anyone part. Like 23 years old now. Do you know what I mean? Whereas like 23, you were a pup. Like so, the generation I came up in was very different, and because I felt like I wouldn't have another opportunity, it was like I have to do everything in my power. Like I have to go down swinging. Whereas maybe a kid that's at, well, Brentford don't have an academy anymore, but maybe a kid that's at, I don't know, say a Chelsea academy or whatever the case may be. And I guess that's a bit of a false equivalency because if you're at a Chelsea academy, it's easier for you to maybe as you trickle down. But so Brentford was a League One club at the time. So League One clubs, say like Swindon, for example. If you get released from Swindon Academy, where do you go? Where do you go now? Because it's like you're really and truly, your only option, really and truly, is League Two if you're lucky, or maybe, you know, Conference or something. But you still have that as an option. You can still go, the manager's not feeling me here. Let me go and see, as opposed to let me just go and try elsewhere and almost give up on it, as opposed to going, no, let me go and find out what, because I want this more than anything. So
yeah,
that's what I would say.
So from what you've said there about where you think Malachi is at and your rise into football, and you coming from a very unstructured environment and pathway, are you more of an advocate of that unstructured route?
I think so. It's this, right? I think the biggest issue that we have in England is that flair is seen as a luxury. So you look at, and there was I don't know if it was a list that came out or someone that just said it. And I asked you guys these questions, like, who was the last, or have we ever, like, who's the last great English manager football's had? We created the game. There's more money in this country than there is anywhere else. Who was the last great English manager?
I actually read this recently. Yeah, it's true.
So what does that say about the kids that are coming up, that are going to come up through the system? They're going to have managers who aren't even in the top 20 in the world, top 50 in the world, coaching them with a certain way of doing things from a certain manual. So what does that mean for the players that you're going to create? Because all our best players, and especially like our best players now, like your Raheems, your Grealishes, your Fodens, whatnot, they don't play the English way.
No.
Yet those type of players, if they played in Spain, if they played in Italy, if they played in Germany, they would be the first name on the team sheet. And I know like Raheem's and whatnot, but it's like if you don't have a Foden or a Grealish in the starting lineup for England, you're mad. How can you expect to win any type of tournament without that? But they're seen as luxury players, whereas Pep Guardiola sees Foden as a necessity. Do you know what I mean? Grealish is the captain of his team. And it's just a case of that, again, finding the I don't even want to call it lack of structure. It's more like expression of footballing ability. Because Brazil, all the South American teams, they do it. You know what I mean? You look at the teams that have won most World Cups: Brazil, Germany, France, Spain have never quite achieved what they should have with the ability they've got. But you look at the players and the way they play the game, they just play with like a freeness. It's almost like if everything is structured, then you see things in straight lines. And whereas when like Xavi would get the ball, when Iniesta picks up the ball, when Busquets gets the ball, just to name a few, like they're making passes we don't even see, because in our English way of thinking, it's like, well, if I have the ball here,
it must go.
It must go there. Yeah. Whereas they're like,
let me solve the problem.
Yeah, they're just
do unexpected, or what's best for this situation.
What's best for this situation, yeah. And I think that is...
But I think that's a bit unfair on the academies, because England has gone over an overhaul in the last like 15 years or so. So I agree with what you're saying there, but that's a little bit dated. That's a little bit in the past. The academies now, the pathway is very structured. So let's say Malachi, he was in our commercial coaching company at the age of 5, and we're linked with professional clubs. So we've got that straight pathway for him into professional football. So he starts going into Fulham on a Wednesday. Chelsea, I think he was going to for a bit. Yeah. So he's doing his development centres. Then we set up the grassroots team that you were the coach of.
Yeah.
So everything very structured there. Then he gets his signing under 8, which is very common for the talented players at the young ages now. And now he's in the academy program. But even though there's structure there, the Category 1 clubs, they have a lot of freedom. There's a lot where they're letting players learn through the game, learning through the environment, lot of guided discovery, which should foster their own decision making and that creativity that you're talking about.
Yeah.
So
you're absolutely right in the sense that we wouldn't have the Fodens, the Grealishes, the Raheems now if that wasn't being done. So you're right in terms of that was probably a dated opinion that I've given. It's just that, generally speaking, that's what we've had, and it's really kind of like changing that ideology, because we've never been innovative in this country. It's always like, let's go over there and see what they're doing. And it's not a bad thing. Hey, like learn from who's doing things the best, right? It's just that if you're always going somewhere else to learn it, like you're never going to be in the lead, because you're constantly going, it's like Apple do something, then Sony follow it, and whoever, T-Mobile, all these things follow it, or Microsoft do something, then someone else follows it. So you're always like chasing, as opposed to being like, holding the torch for this thing. But you're right, we are starting to see more of that. And at Fulham, they do encourage individual expression, and it's not as much a case of like this is how you do things there, this is how you do things there. And it's conversation. Why did you do that? Okay, what if I pose this question to you? What if you'd have done this? So yeah, you're getting the players thinking and problem solving as well more, which obviously brings more creativity to answers and understanding of what's possible.
Because the academies looked at that with exactly what we're talking about, the sort of Peter Beardsleys, Gascoignes, those players that were those free spirits and unpredictable. They were like, how do we have that? Because they went through years, no players in that mold. And they're saying, well, how do we bring sort of street football and a lack of structure into the academy environment? Which, yeah, it's a tough balance. But hopefully now with the Fodens and Grealishes and those players starting to come through, maybe it is starting to work and they found a way to do it.
Because I want to say that, like, as much as we'll see, I guess, when we go to major tournaments, how it pans out. Because, for example, we've had players like Michael Carrick, who should have over 100 England caps, really underutilized because they didn't feel as though someone like him was necessary or could really fit. And it's like, well, the best teams in the world have Michael Carricks. Like, Spain have a Xabi Alonso. And for me, they're of the same ilk, right? Pick up the ball anywhere on the pitch and find a pass anywhere else. Like, how could you not have someone who can link back to front like that with one pass and cut out half a team? But again,
Scholes being played on the left.
It's ridiculous to me. And we're talking about some of the best midfielders England have ever had being underutilized. So, yeah.
Going into, we talked about you as the coach for Malachi's team. How did you find that?
Oh man, I enjoyed it. And that was such an enjoyable experience. It's probably why I haven't gone back into it, because I don't know if that could ever be like replicated. And I mean, you know, we met through We Make Footballers, which is, you know, the business that you guys run, and like, it's incredible. And as you know, I literally stumbled across it because I think Yuri maybe had to do like the older age group. I didn't turn up or whatever it was. So I ended up stumbling into it. But I mean, everyone talks about the job I'd done there, but essentially I literally just picked up where you guys had left off. Because you look at that team, you know, all the boys bar 2 went to academies. And there was like, in total, maybe not, so, you know, Malachi, Cam, Rayan, Kai, Jay, Ted, Stefan, who am I missing? I think that's it, because then you had Louis and Adam that didn't go to academies. And, you know, we're talking Fulham, Chelsea and QPR. You know, so we're talking like Cat 1 academies, right? And still there and still doing very well. So I was lucky in the sense that it was such a talented group of boys. And I mean, what they were doing was just incredible. Like, we were entering tournaments a year above because they were just killing the competition. And in just a like, in such a, you know, humble, like well-mannered way. And it goes back to that, you know, the structure versus unstructured or creativity. I gave them very little structure. We had a way of play, but so it's like, when the ball's here, you press. When the ball's there, you don't press. When you have the ball, your options are, you know, beat the. I'd always say, like, it's so funny because the parents would say it on the sideline, answer the question for the kids, and I'd be like, you know, you do your trick, you beat your man, what'd you do? And they're like, pass or shoot. Do you know what I mean? And doing that just allowed them to go, okay, I'm allowed to beat a man. I've beat him now. What's the next thing I want to do? I want to be efficient. I want to be effective. So is me beating another man effective? Or can I play a 1-2? Or am I in a shooting area? Am I in a crossing position? So giving them, again, that freedom of choice to say, like, look, when you're in this area, like, what do you think will give you the best outcome? And letting them think about it and answer it is the reason why they were so creative. They were, you know, at times I would put limits on them where it's like, you know, Cam, you're 2-touching your half and then you're rolling in the other half. Or for the next 5 minutes, can you create 2 opportunities? Like, individually give them those tasks. And it was like, they were constantly like trying to achieve them. They're like, what's the next task? What's the next thing? Like, or scoring a goal or shooting with their wrong foot and being like, see, I've done it. Like, and it was just those things it was just such an incredible experience. And I say, like, you know, they won umpteen amount of tournaments. I can literally probably count on one hand the amount of games they lost over 2 years. Like, it was just such an enjoyable experience.
And how did Malachi react to you coaching him? How's that? Because obviously with my one coming up, I'm already trying to think ahead of how that dynamic is going to work.
I tell you what, it was hard because when it's your child, like you just go a bit harder, right?
Yeah.
So I would hear myself sometimes. For example, if I'm shouting someone else's child, it might just be like, Rayan, and he might not hear me, Rayan, and then I might just say, but when it's your child, Malachi, and it's just your tone, the way you would do things is a bit like, and then we'd have, you know, the conversation in the car afterwards if you hadn't played well and whatnot. So I had to really like kind of sit down with myself and say, okay, right, what type of conversation do you have in the car with Malachi afterwards? Because if someone else is the coach and your son has a bad game, you know, you could be like, well, maybe not you, but you know what I mean? Someone else would be like, oh, you know, well done today, son, you tried.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you don't have like that coaching football head on, because essentially you're chauffeur and support, right? It's like you need to get them to the game and you need to support them while they're there.
Yeah.
Whereas because we love football, it's kind of like, yeah, I felt like you could have done this, and it's just like another coach's voice. But when the coach is your dad and you were hearing it for however many minutes, and then you got to hear it in the car, and it's like, it's ruining my Sunday because he played crap. And it's like, I had to like, literally like, I had to go, okay, like what's the most important? Like I want him to enjoy his football. If he can't enjoy it now, then he's got no chance.
Yeah.
So like I said, in the beginning, the first couple of months, it was difficult for me to get the balance right. But then essentially I went back to that whole, you know, son, how do you feel like you played today? Do you feel like you could have done? And if I disagreed with him, I would pose another question or challenge what he'd done in a manner so he's thinking, not telling him like, no, you should have done this.
You're having a discussion whether instead of you telling him.
Right, exactly. Because it's because I see a lot of coaches do it at grassroots where it's like just telling kids. And if you're constantly telling the kids what to do, they're always waiting for you to tell them what to do, as opposed to getting their brain, because like I said, they're a sponge at that age. So it's like getting them to think about what they want to do and becoming self-sufficient. So now you're just, I would literally, I like have my chair. I got a nice little portable chair. I put it down, I chew gum, and I'd have a tea. Like that's the point that it got to. I was literally there just to, you know, I was like bumpers on a bowling alley. It's like they veer off, oh, hit me, go back in. That was it. And that's the point it got to. And that's kind of like how I wanted to model myself in my coaching. I wanted to make sure that by the time we got to the game, like I said, like it's autonomous. Like I'm not having to do or say anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, I want to stick on that though with the car journeys on the way home. So what advice would you give to parents when they're taking their kids on a journey home?
Boy. See, so the thing is that everyone thinks they know like football, the game of football, right? Because like it's the global sport, it's one most of us love. So everyone has an opinion on it. It's just that some opinions are less valid than others, right? But as a parent, you're going to give your opinion. But again, it goes back to the like, what is my role here as a parent? If they have a coach, if you are taking your child to train somewhere or to play for a Sunday league team, essentially what you're saying is, I trust the coach to either it's for two reasons, one or both reasons. I want him to have fun and, you know, be sociable and fit and whatnot, take him to football, he enjoys it.
Yeah.
Two, nurture this talent that he has. So if I didn't enjoy like We Make Footballers for Malachi, I would have taken him out because I understand football. But because I had no worries or concerns about the way he was being taught and coached, I go, there you go. So I never had an opposing conversation with him or any conversation at all. So a lot of times the conversation should be, oh, what did the coach tell you today? Why did you make that decision? Because times Malachi will come back from Fulham and I'll be like, why did you do that? Like, I don't understand. He'll be like, oh, because the coach told me to do X, Y, Z. I'll be like, okay, it makes sense.
Yeah.
To me, it looked like, I'm like, why did you end up in that area? How did you end up there? And he'll explain what the coach wanted him to do. So I think once you hand over your child, it's almost like you are not relinquishing all power, because yes, there's a conversation to be had, but it's a conversation. Just always remember that. Take a deep breath, then get back to the car. You know, how do you feel about the game? Oh, that good moment. Oh, that moment. Do you think you could have done something better? And you're just like, okay. You just take everything with a pinch of salt. Okay. Or leave them with a question to think about. That's how I think you want the car journey conversation to go.
I think that's amazing. And it's so interesting to hear a professional footballer talk like that, because if you're in a position where you're in a car journey on the way home and you're so careful and conscious of affecting the way that the coaches are programming the child's mind in many ways, it just says what parents that don't know anything about football should be doing.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
they just need to stay so quiet. And like you said earlier, you said be a chauffeur and be a fan.
That's what you're there. That's literally what you're there for. Like,
Yeah.
you want to, go and let your kid, because if they can't enjoy it at that age, at that level, if they're not enjoying it at grassroots, what chance have they got? Do you know what I mean? Like, and football's meant to be the beautiful sport that everyone loves. So, chauffeur and support. And again, just you have to be the curious one. Just ask questions to understand why they're doing what they're doing, and challenge them as to what they could have done differently in moments where they were unsuccessful, and congratulate them for the moments in which they were successful. Yeah. That's it.
It can actually be really harmful, because we talked there about like programming the kid's mind when they're being these elite athletes and they've got to make quick, fast decisions. If a coach, like maybe the parent is a brilliant accountant or brilliant policeman or whatever, and they think they're super knowledgeable about football, and they start imparting that information, it might actually undo some of the work that coach has done.
100%. And even I remember one of my first, I got told off. Yuri told me off because I think we played. It was the Wycombe footballer like boroughs, so it was like Richmond was playing Isleworth and and I remember Malachi had done something and I gave him a little bit of coaching, and Yuri was like, no coaching from the side. And from that moment I was like, sorry, like, do you know what I mean? Like, and it wasn't anything. It was just like, oh, Malachi, maybe pass it earlier. Something as simple as that. But no coaching from the side, like one voice, because you see it all the time. I'm sure you guys see it all the time, where it's like the child is taking instruction from the coach and looking at what their parent's going to say or do. And it's like, how can you possibly, there's only one person whose opinion should matter, and that is your coach's.
It's like you said, you're letting your child play for that grassroots team. So essentially you need to trust the coach.
Exactly.
Because otherwise, it just confuse.
Because
you don't need that. Yeah.
Because then they're nervous and they can't play like with freedom because they're worried about what their parents going to say while they're playing or in the car. It's just not this.
And another thing is, when something maybe goes against them, then it gives them sort of an excuse or something to blame.
Yeah.
If the parent and the coaches aren't aligned.
Yeah.
The message needs to be consistent so that they understand.
Yeah. 100%. Kids they can't have that stuff comes in and out of their brain so fast. They just need one thing. Just tell them to do one thing, because it's like shiny thing. So if you're hearing something here and then hearing it there, kids can't take on all that information. Yeah. One voice. It's just that simple.
You talked earlier about the experience of rejection that you faced. Sounded horrible. Like, just
setback.
Your setback.
Setback. Yeah.
Is that something you're concerned about for Malachi at a point when he may potentially experience some rejection in football?
Not at all. And one of my proudest moments is when Malachi actually did experience a little bit of rejection. So the one thing that people need to know about football is there's a lot more lows than there are highs. And not everyone really gets highs, because you can have a career where you're just here. You have a good career, you earn good money, never get relegated, never get promoted, never win anything. Like, we've had a good career, you've enjoyed yourself. To get those highs is another level of like determination and focus, and they're great. But like I said, there's a lot more lows. There's injuries, there's being released, there's being dropped. Do you know what I mean? Not making the squad. There's like every day you're in a performance-based environment, right? So if you're not performing, next one. It's that simple. So when Malachi got to, I think, under nines, they obviously made the decision to take him on for 2 years or not. And Malachi actually didn't get taken on at that moment in time. And it's so funny because everyone, some kids know straight away, some know a little bit later on in the season and whatnot. And parents talk. They're like, is being offered. Has Malachi been offered yet? I'm like, no. Like, no, like, it's not. Do you know what I mean? He hasn't been offered. But obviously, because he'd been there for such a long time and they liked him, and they almost, it was like, we can see he has potential. It's just, he's just not realizing it, or it's not coming out in like actualization. So he got to come back on a 6-week trial. And what made me the proudest was that obviously he's come back into a group of boys that he knows. Like, they're all wearing like the official Fulham kit. He's coming in, whatever. They would spend time apart training, and then they let the trialists come back and join the group. And Malachi done well enough to earn the contract, right? So for me, that was a very early opportunity on how to deal with rejection. And even if he didn't get the contract, I would have been pleased for him, because I'm like, you got rejected, you came back, you gave it your all, it didn't happen, but you can be proud of the effort you made, and it worked out for you. So, and that's just like, that's football. There's only so many people that can play. That is the life you're going into. So
I guess it does. It gives him a chance for real growth.
Yeah.
And then as a parent, and so knowledgeable and obviously experienced in football, it's a perfect opportunity to guide him through that and push him onto that next level.
When he's had obstacles and areas of games he's had to work on, have you done some individual practice with him outside of Fulham?
Not really. I'm not the person. I'm not that parent that really does like football training with him, so to speak. And the reason why is because I would try and coach him, and I would just get so frustrated because he's not doing what I want him to do. And this is why my appreciation of teaching like just heightened, because it's like there is a real difference between being able to do something and teaching someone to do something. Like the level of patience and tolerance you have to have is like insane. Because I remember one time when he was a lot younger, I was trying to teach him how to do kick-ups, and I just started doing kick-ups. I was like, yeah, so what you do is you just kick the ball with his foot. And he's looking at me like, okay, yeah, like great. And I realized to myself, it's like, no, I'm showing him what they look like. I'm not actually teaching him how he can do it. So it was like more sessions with Yuri, more sessions with Marcelo. Like, let that be, because I trust them. I trust you guys to do that. Like, we make football. I trust you guys to teach him all the things that I haven't got the patience, the tolerance, or the intelligence to teach him. So now when I play football with him, it's all fun because he has enough of that. So especially now, like I said, he's training 3 times a week and he's got a game on a Sunday. So that's more than enough structure in terms of, tactical, technical, like, aptitude, so on and so forth. So when I play football with him, I'm taking him back to my childhood, playing in the cage, like penalties, free kicks, I'll turn up to his house and he'll be like, this is a knuckleball. This is how whoever, and I'm like, okay, you're learning. Like, you're understanding now. It's your free play where you just go, let me learn the things.
Explore,
Let me explore. And that's what I want to do with him. I want to explore with him. I don't want to be another voice that's like, okay, this is how, receive. Don't get me wrong. There's little things I'll do with him. So, for example, a big thing for him I've noticed in this football at the moment is turning out onto his left foot, because he's right-footed, but he plays a lot on the left. And it's just the ability to open up the pitch, like, and have more options if he's just willing to turn out, as opposed to taking the touch back inside and close. So something very small like that. But again, they've got huddle now. So it's like, I can show him, I can be like, see the difference between when you open up and when you take that touch back inside.
Yeah.
And then he can go out and do it, or I can knock him 10 balls and just open up, just boom. And it's just like, open up, open. So that's the extent to which I coach him.
And my question is, how open is he to receiving, these gems from you? Because let's say with my little one at the moment, obviously he's really young and whatnot, but I'm sort of seeing signs where he's happy to play, happy to explore, and he just wants daddy to kick the ball around with him and whatnot. But my worry would be is if, as he grows up and it's a little bit more of a, all right, let's do this, let's practice this, would he be as open to doing so? At the moment, I would have to say no, he wouldn't be. Honestly, I'd have to say he wouldn't be. But I mean, I would love for us to go out and when he's older and practice, let's do this.
Yeah.
Because, you want to pass all your knowledge, all your, but obviously sometimes it doesn't quite work out like that. So yeah, my question would be, how open is he to receiving that information?
I think there's 2 things. So again, when I first was coaching and whatnot, I was very strict on him. It was hard. It was whatever. So he didn't enjoy it. And he knew when daddy was coming over to train, it was like, it's going to be tough, because I'm tough. I mean, I'm a nice guy, but I am, when it comes to, I'm there with it because it's my profession.
Yeah.
So I think the key thing for me to do was, again, go back to making it enjoyable. Even if I'm gritting my teeth and in the back of my head, like, I just want to throttle him. It's like, you like it's more important that he enjoys learning with you than it is you strangling him. Do you know what I mean? Because you're angry. So it's like, there's that. And again, like, if he really wants to learn from me, like, he'll let me know, because you'll be able to see whether, like, he wants to. If you create like an open, like, compassionate, like, environment where he can come to you and is like, Dad, I want to do this. And he does more so now. We play football so much more now than we ever did. And he's playing more football generally, like, outside of that. And it is because it's free for all, medicine in the candy type environment. So yeah, like, if there's something about his game that is niggling me, all right, how do I make this fun? How do I make an enjoyable experience so it's not like, oh, monster. So that's it for me. One, creating that environment as the parent, and then two, just seeing if your kid actually really wants to do it, because you can tell if someone, like, really wants to be a footballer or not.
Yeah.
I think.
But can it be fostered? Because earlier on, you've identified, you're saying at this current time, Malachi doesn't love football as much as I did when I was 11. Do you think I don't want to use the word manipulate, but can you develop the love for the game? Do you think you can do that?
Oh, no, don't get me wrong. Malachi loves football.
Right.
He just doesn't love it as much as I done. Because like I said, he trains, 2.5, is it like 2 hours? 2 hours on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, game on a Sunday. I can safely say I was playing way more football than he was at his age, because I was like running with my football to school, playing football at school, going to the park after school, playing until, like, it got dark, coming home to eat dinner, like, every day.
Yeah.
Every day. So it's like, for me, me and the ball was inseparable. And again, like I said, it goes back to, there's more things to do now. It's, go out with your mates and play PlayStation and da-da-da. And don't get me wrong, like, I had the latest of whatever was around that time, flipping Nintendo or Tamagotchi or whatever, yo-yo and those things. It's just that the football always came first for me. Do you know what I mean?
But if that's the competition, so say every 11-year-old is facing the same amount of distractions, the one who practices the most, there's a whole load of thing of like, how much talent they've got and all the other stuff, but that's what we're discovering on this podcast. But I think that something we're looking to discover is, like, if you can make football that fun, if they enjoy spending time with you, and gradually they just learn to just love training, because all they need to do is just train more than their competition in many ways. Maybe this generation are not loving the game as much as your generation, but all you've got to do is be better than everyone else in your kind of like age band.
But it's purposeful practice as well, isn't it? Because it's like someone could go out and train for 2 hours without really focusing on anything, and then there's someone that could do half an hour of really, like, intense focused training and get way more out of it. And my thing is that you are like how you continually behave. So you're right, there are a ton of distractions, but if I put an alcoholic beverage, a pack of cigarettes, or a fruit in front of you, the thing you will pick the thing that you tend to enjoy more so than anything else. Even though you've got all these other things that you might partake in, the thing you enjoy the most is the thing you'll pick up the most. And I say that to say this: if football is the thing you enjoy the most, because you don't really choose what's fun, like, you just, whatever's fun is fun. If that's what you find fun, that's what you'll do the most of. If you find it more of like an arduous task, then you might
sooner or later,
when it gets hard, when places are up for grabs, or it's
setbacks,
it's kind of like, it's whatever.
But I don't know if I agree with that wholly. Like, let's say, all right, I'll get your example. There's 3 things there for the child that there's maybe something immediately they're going for and maybe they love more. But if, let's say the parent wants that third option to be the one that they love the most, are there methods that can be done to, like, react and say, and like you've kind of talked about it, you've like, I've got to try and make it more fun, the training, or do this stuff. So then that third option, gradually over time, they find themselves loving it more.
Okay, so let me pose this question then,
Yeah.
or put it this way. Like what you are, you've always been, right? So part of what we enjoy is what we're good at. So I loved football because I was good at it, and because I was better than most at it, and because I would see like big improvements when I trained. It's the reason why I don't like I didn't like English at school, because it's like I'm working so hard, harder than everyone else, or like as hard as I possibly can, and I'm getting marginal gains. For example, how much practice as a player or as a coach do you do with players on their weaknesses compared to what they're good at? It's like you probably do like, I don't know, percentage wise, if you had 100% right, you probably do, I don't know, 15, 20% of what they're not good at, and 75, 80% of what they're good at, because you understand that this is where they're going to get the most benefits. Like this bit may take them there, but that bit will take them there. And again, if you're not seeing results or seeing, huge results in comparison to where you are and the people around you, how long are you going to do that? So if your parent constantly dragging you to football and you're not the best, or you get picked last, or you're getting better, but you're not the best, it's like, you can't force fun. And that's my point. It's like you will ultimately fall where you're meant to, and that's down to the parent to almost like understand your child, and that's another reason why I don't do coaching with Malachi, because as much as I said, like, the ones who are going to be footballers or not, or want to be footballers, I'm actually not sure if Malachi wants to be a footballer. If he wants to be, I don't care what he wants to be as long as he's happy. I'm just not sure he wants to be a footballer, because I don't see that thing. I'm not talking ability wise, because ability wise, he has the potential to become a footballer, but that like unsatiable desire.
So my question to you is that because it's not been cultivated from young, or is he playing football because, like you said, he's good, better than probably his friends at school, and and he's found a amazing level of success, and or even my dad plays football. I like football. I'm good.
Yeah.
So that would be my question. Is that because it's not been cultivated from young?
But like I said, I didn't even care for football until I was like 9. Do you know what I mean? And he's been playing since he was 5 or something like that. So in terms of years, he's got the jump on me, in terms of when he started. But again, that comes down to the individual. Like I didn't choose football. Football chose me. Like I didn't just, decide one day that I'm gonna make football fun, because I just ended up liking football, and it's the thing I'd done constantly, time after time. And the work I was doing with the ball, most people weren't doing. I was outside my house for hours kicking the ball against the wall or trying to learn a new skill. Hours and hours and hours. You have to love something to do it for that long. Get so annoyed with it when you can't do the thing you want to do, like to the point where you like kick the ball away, and then you go inside because you need a break, and you sit down and you think about it, and you're like, oh, let me try that. And then you go out and you do it, and you're like, oh, I can do it. And now like it's just this incredible thing you can do, right? You have to love that thing. And that's why I say, like, you can be good at something and you can do it. And maybe
how do you get the love then?
no, I think so get the love is the wrong word. I think if you have the love, you have the love. If you don't have the love, you don't have the love. What I would say is that the ability to maximize on your potential is determinant of your love for the sport. Because like I said, there's people who play football that don't necessarily like the sport that much, but it's a great industry to be in terms of like, potential money wise, opportunities you're afforded. So, hey, if I'm decent at it and you're telling me I can have all of these things, yeah, I'll do it. But then there's the people who love it, that Ronaldo's, Messi's, Neymar's, like, just to name a few, Mbappe, that love it, that maximize their potential day in, day out, because they just can't do anything else other than play. It's on their mind. Do you know what I mean?
We have these discussions, don't we? And what's your opinion on
It's a great discussion. It's
Yeah.
really interesting hearing it from a professional footballer's perspective. I think as I'm thinking about the journey that you're talking about, I'm thinking about some late developers, and I'm thinking at like there's certain tipping points. So there might be players, because I'm thinking that the love, like, yeah, the perfect route is just you've got this like 4 or 5-year-old and they've always got a ball at their feet and you can tell they just love it and all that kind of stuff. And that's kind of like that lovely story. But then there might be others that persevere, don't get signed under 8s. Maybe they suddenly develop around 12, 13. Maybe there's some kind of like trauma or something significant that happens, and then it just flips. And it's that point of like, when are they having enough success that, wow, well, I'm really good at this now, or football's a lot easier for me now. But then do they get to that success without, it's chicken and egg?
Yeah.
Because unless you're practicing all the time, you don't get to the point where you're enjoying it and you're successful. Yeah, I think probably if we like sort of bring it round about again, the love does come first, because without that, you're not going to get your 10,000 hours of practice and you're not going to have success. But there probably are examples out there where they're just kicking on and just doing whatever, and then it comes later.
And I
maybe
think a case of like, and in people like that, if you was to look at what they do outside of football, everything they would be doing would be geared towards becoming a professional footballer, right? It's not just like they're playing football with their mates or playing at a non-league level. They're making decisions, whether it be, you know, about work or personally, that given the best opportunity to be a footballer, it's like their mates might be like, let's go out on Friday night. And they're like, no, because I've got a game. Do you know what I mean? They might be like, let's go on holiday for a week. No, because I've got a trade. So they're making decisions in alignment with like being that thing. And that's why I say like, it doesn't just look like turning up and training or playing. It's like, what are you doing? Because you could be playing and then like smoking every day of the week. And I'm not saying that you can, but I'm just saying, like, generally speaking, if you're smoking every day, if you're drinking every day, if you're having, you know what I mean, a drink at lunch with you're probably not going to become a professional footballer, right? And you're putting socializing over like becoming a professional footballer. So your priorities dictate what you really care about. My priorities dictated that football was the thing I cared about more often than not. I remember one time I went to a house party. I was like 16. And no, that's a lie. I was 14, 15 because I hadn't had my scholarship yet. And I had a game the next day. And I got in at like 1, 2 o'clock. And my mum was like, you're not going football. I was crying. I wrote a whole like 4-page letter about how I love football and I'll never do it again. And I'm not saying I never done anything like that again, but 99.9% of the time, everything I'd done was in alignment with becoming a professional football player. So again, it's the decisions you make that will dictate like what really matters to you and how much you want something.
I think as we're talking, it definitely comes back to there's like emotional love of the game that happens, which pushes you to go out and just train and be obsessed and just want to be the best. And when you're going to have, you talked about more lows than highs in football. When you're having those dark times, you fall back on how much you love the game. Just you can't see any other way and you're going to fight through it. But I suppose the other question that we come back to, again, we repeat, is can the love, I mean, you've talked about it last week on last week's podcast where Marcelo's got his 2-year-old or 1-year-old sitting in the high chair when they have dinner watching Champions League games, and go on, tell him.
I was watching Champions League, and he's obviously got to eat with me or whatnot, and I'd have him there. And I think I'd had a discussion before with a colleague of mine at Tottenham whose son is a really good player. So we just had that discussion, and he was like, I just had him watching football on my phone and whatnot, to the point where he was asking to watch the videos himself. And that's how it sort of started. Then he took him to football and found a level of success, and then it just developed from there. So I that's how it started, I guess, with my one. to the point where now he is literally obsessed. You know,
but that's it. And he didn't. And it's not because you forced it on him. Because if you forced food on him that he didn't like, he's not eating it. He's not all of a sudden go, I enjoy this now.
but what does he know? What does, whether he likes it or not?
Well, he likes it because he
'Cause he's not-
continues to do it. Like he didn't choose to. You didn't. It's almost maybe it's the flashing lights. Maybe it's the
Yeah.
music. Maybe it's the way the ball rolls.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
It's getting
No,
away.
it's true.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
That doesn't
yeah.
necessarily mean he likes.
Or
Even likes
like,
football. It's
he
just
watches me watch it. Oh, okay, that must be good then. Or
possibly, yeah.
But sorry, but yeah, like Marcelo's kind of like coerced him into football. He has, like, in a way, like they've like kind of hugged him when like he scores a goal, like, and you know, and then he gets loads of attention, and then the sort of 2-year-old is then looking at his parents, just like, oh wow, I kicked this ball into this goal, and now I get attention and a hug. All right, I'm gonna do that more.
Okay, let me put it this way, right?
Go on.
The flip of that, as a parent, I don't enjoy chauffeuring Malachi up and down to go to football. What I enjoy is spending time with him. So if I have an opportunity not to take him, like, or someone else can take him, they can take him. Like, do you know what I mean? Because the driving here, there, 4 times a week, like, you know, they could have away games. It's like when they go and play 2 hours away, like, I'm not going. Like, put on a coach or ask one of the other parents, because as much as he enjoys football, like, I have my own life. So I don't like the driving constantly. I like spending time with him. And no amount of driving is going to make me enjoy driving. But I just like that. So as he grows older, it may be a case of, I enjoy doing this with dad because it's
I'm with dad.
Because it's me and dad time.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily care about, like, I care about it enough because my dad likes it. And just as an example, do you know what I mean? It's not going to make him care about that thing.
Yeah.
But for him, what's more important is the spending time with you. So he does that because it equals that. And that's what my point is. Like, at a point in time when with children, and especially children, because it gets distracted so easily, it's like, once they stop enjoying that, like, they'll just put it down. Like, you watch a child, like, they enjoy something for 5 minutes, put it down, and then they're on to the next thing. And that's almost like where you have to go, okay, we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. Like, get to know your child and be like, okay, they like that. They're showing a real interest in that. Okay, push them into that. You know, they're not really gaining much from that experience. Okay, stop taking them. Because now I'm creating more time for myself, less journeying, saving petrol. I can probably spend more purposeful time with them as opposed to going, you'll enjoy this eventually. You'll enjoy this eventually. Because that's not a them thing. That's a you thing. And that's what I had to. And that's why I say, like, I don't care if Malachi plays football or not. Slightly a lie, because I would like, I do care. Yeah. Because it'd be great to see him play football. But what we have to appreciate is our abilities. You're an incredible coach and footballer. That doesn't necessarily mean your son will be, because he's the amalgamation of you and your partner. Yeah. You were your mum and your dad, and that made you. And your son is, a little bit of you, a little bit of your missus. That doesn't necessarily make the same, because how many footballers do we see whose children go on to have the same success or more? Like, I can't think of. They have kids who play, right? Of course, but they don't. I don't know a son who's had more success than their father if they played. Do you know what I mean? At a decent level. I'm trying to think. And I'm sure maybe there's exceptions to the rule, but they would be exceptions to the rule as opposed to, like,
the majority.
As opposed to being like the evolved version.
No, I completely understand that point. It's a really good point. I guess having, doing that, or trying to, what was the word, coerce, your child into very early on, in the hope that it then becomes they drive it. Yeah.
That's what you want. Once they're driving
it. Which is great, which is where now, even with me, I sort of step back and it's him coming to me going, let's go and do that. Or when am I going to play football with the kids, with the other children, or stuff like that. But I guess it can go either way.
But that's where you want it, though. They're driving it, because now they're keen to do it.
Exactly.
Because you know what kids are like. If they want to do something, they're pestering you to do it because 100%. They love and enjoy it and want to do it. If it's the other way around, where you're constantly like, come on, let's go. Come on, let's go. For them, it's a chore. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And you want it to be that thing that they want to learn and love. And
But it's funny, though, because at the start, you're almost like, I hope he does like football.
Yeah.
But then now because he's driving it so much, I'm even like, oh my God.
I need a break.
Oh my God, what have I done?
You hit a monster in it.
Yeah,
You're like,
yeah.
I've got to go and
I'm
play
like,
now. Yeah.
you know, I've been coaching all day at, you know, at camp. I get home, he hasn't seen me all day.
Yeah.
What does he want to do? Dad, can we, you know, park ball? I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God. And my, you
yeah.
know, my partner's just there looking at me like, what have you done?
Well, yeah. Just
And
you.
it's hard, but obviously deep down I'm like, fantastic, great. You know, he loves, you know, he's getting that love for it and he wants to do it. But yeah, it's funny.
Careful what you wish for.
Exactly.
That's it. That's exactly it.
Yeah,
Careful what you
yeah,
wish for,
yeah.
because you just might get it, and before you know it, like, you create a kid that just wants to play football all the time. You're like,
Yeah. So it's interesting to hear you say, like, spending time with him and manage that right. So, no, it's really good points.
Amazing. Darius, thank you so much for your time.
No, my
It's
pleasure.
been amazing. I think that'll be really, really helpful to parents watching and listening to this. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please share it and look out for the next one coming out soon.